is why, Europe is perhaps now trying to search for new friends and allies. Ambassador Sajjanhar, in its search for new friends and allies, Europe has come to India. But the fact of the matter is that one of the most important and key convergent points between European Union and India is China. And EU has been trying to de-risk from China, perhaps, even before these wars began, since the time of COVID, when there was an issue with China and its global supply chains. With that kind of outreach towards India, obviously, European Union Ambassador Sajjanhar will be looking at India as a more reliable option than China, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know whether I would agree with you when you say that, India is a new friend of the European Union. I think India and the European Union have been very old partners. India was one of the first countries, in the late 1950s when the European Economic Community was established. India was one of the first countries to recognize it and to establish trading relations. And our trading relations have been good, they have been strong, they have been vibrant. As I said, there is convergence of values. India and the EU both are democracies, pluralistic societies, rule of law, etc. And now, of course, as far as the economies are concerned, and particularly, I think, after the Lisbon Treaty 2009, it is, the European Union is going more into more strategic areas like security, like defense, like foreign policy. And of course, it will be pushed in that direction definitely by what Mr. Trump is doing. But coming to your question, Shreya, whether it is looking at India now more closely, you see, I think China, as far as economy is concerned, is a very significant and an integral partner of European countries. I think, they might be looking at China plus one, but whatever the investments are there, I think they are going to stay, and the relationship of big companies, big European companies with China is going to stay. Yet there are many opportunities. What Ursula von der Leyen in her interview has said is India is one of Europe's most trusted friends. So, all these words are very important, trusted and friends.
Yeah.
And as I said, it is her first visit into her new tenure. She's just been elected and late last year, she took over. So she had decided at that time that she's coming to India because of this, that she wanted to take this partnership forward. But the presence of China and the fact that, the manner in which China has weaponized the supply chains, etc., after COVID-19, and also that it has emerged as a security threat as far as technology is concerned, I think that has forced Europe really to look more positively towards India. That having been said, I'll make one more point that, all these new elements, we are talking about the India-EU FTA. I was in Brussels. I was the deputy chief of mission when we started the negotiations in 2007. And it is already, 17, 18 years. The point is that EU keeps on introducing new elements into this, keeps moving the goalposts, so to say. Right now, it is, in terms of data privacy, it is the carbon border adjustment mechanism, the carbon tax that they want to introduce. So these are things that really sort of, push back. And now we have that it is on FTA, it is on investment, it is on geographical indications. I think we really need to do it very quickly, particularly because of the threat coming from the United States, as also the threat from China. So both India and the EU, I think, are well-suited partners to strengthen their partnership relationship and take it forward to higher levels. Shreya.
But, Ambassador Sajjanhar, and I want Burzine to comment on this, can the India completely trust the European Union? Yes, we've had a long-standing relationship, but we know how Donald Trump is. He's bizarre. He can go to any lengths. And therefore, if, push comes to shove, if the EU has to side with China against Trump, where will India be left? Burzine, you want to come in on this and, of course, talk about IMEC, of what, India and European Union have been trying to do also to counter China?
Yeah. First things first, President Trump's capricity aside, it's not a question of taking sides or putting all your eggs in one basket. India won't do that. And I have such a vivid example now to afford you, Shreya, and to Indian viewers at large. When Indian Oil Secretary Pankaj Jain a few weeks ago very bluntly said, after new sanctions were slapped by Trump on Moscow and Putin on Russian oil tankers coming to Jamnagar and Mundra ports on the west coast of India to Gujarat, that is going to have an adverse effect on these discounted Russian crude sales, which you have been reaping since the onset of the war in February 2022. President Trump also, in January after his inauguration, made it clear to the Europeans that they ought to be purchasing more American oil and gas. Incidentally, India prior to the war was already doing so since October 2017, and India will, make no mistake, start doing that now and go back to its older suppliers like Iraq, now that these new sanctions have been slapped on Russian oil tankers and the shipping lines in question.
Yeah.
So that's India, what it calls its strategic autonomy, that would come into fact. Moving to the India-Middle East Economic Corridor, conceived in September 2023, it is important to realize that India and the European Union were founding partners of it, besides the UAE and Saudi Arabia, not to mention France, Italy, and Germany. And it is a counter-narrative to the Chinese Belt and Road investment, and also the fact that India will move away from Russia on this aspect, because the North-South corridor, which was conceived in 2000, is a corridor to nowhere, as I've published on this topic. The corridor was supposed to run from New Bombay, Nhava Sheva, Vashi to St. Petersburg via Bandar Abbas, Baku, and Astrakhan. Iran is reeling under sanctions and is a crippled, hemorrhaging economy, not to mention the instability out there. Then there's the question of Armenia, which has not even laid down rail lines in the last 20 odd years and locked in conflict with Azerbaijan. The Russian economy is in tailspin. So India cannot bank on the North-South corridor. It can, despite current disturbances in Israel as such, and with the Hamas war, it still is something to be said with its large trading agreements with the GCC and particularly with the EU, when this corridor, the IMEC corridor, which starts again from New Bombay, Vashi, going to Jebel Ali and Khalifa Port, Abu Dhabi, onwards to Haifa, Piraeus, Greece, Rome, and Marseille, France.